In this feature demonstration, we're going to be covering the different types of navigational controls provided by SharePoint. SharePoint is a vast repository of information, and navigating through the different areas can be challenging at times, especially because there's different forms of navigation competing for our attention. So we're going to go through the functions of each one of the types of navigation that are provided by SharePoint and describe how they work and how they help us find our content. So starting off at a global level, we have something called the global navigation. It's also referred to as the top link bar. That's this series of tabs along the top of the SharePoint screen itself. Now we'll notice that as I'm mousing over each one of these specific links that I'm getting an underline indicating that the link is selected, and in cases where we see this little drop down, it's also displaying subsites underneath each one of these top level sites within SharePoint. Now sites are typically broken into a logical taxonomy, and that taxonomy can be based off of regions, so Europe, North America, and Asia Pacific, for example, or in the case of departmental organizations, as this particular site collection is organized, we have a top-level site for anything related to the entire organization. We have a business intelligence center, engineering, information technology, etc. So this global navigation shows us top-level sites, and if we click on each one of these top-level sites, we're redirected to the project site itself, and we see that the subsites are now displayed as global navigation elements or local global navigation within this specific site. And by clicking on any one of those links, I'm automatically redirected to the appropriate site. Another navigational control provided by SharePoint is contextual navigation. Contextual navigation gives you information about where are you now and how did you get there. And SharePoint provides two different forms of contextual navigation within sites. The first is the breadcrumb navigation, and that's this series of links here. As I navigate into lists and libraries within SharePoint, that breadcrumb navigation expands to show me the information that I have selected and exactly how I got down to the specific location. In addition to that, it gives me a link to get back up to a higher level site very quickly just by selecting the hyperlink in the breadcrumb itself. I'll point out that we're on a subsite right now of the project site. We're in the Fusion project subsite. So if I want to take a look at a more global contextual navigation, I have something called the Navigate Up control. That Navigate Up control can usually be found in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, and it's a folder with an upward pointing arrow. By selecting that navigational control, it gives me contextual navigation starting at the home page of SharePoint itself and the top-level site, subsite, and specific location I'm at right now. So if I want to navigate up to the project site, I select the hyperlink in the Navigate Up icon, or if I want to navigate back to the home page, I can select the highest level site, and I'm instantly redirected to the appropriate location. So the next type of navigation we're going to talk about is called the current navigation. It's also referred to as the quick launch, and that can be found on the left-hand side of the screen. Information in SharePoint is typically stored as either pages, lists, or libraries. They're the primary content repositories in SharePoint itself. So the sites hold those lists and libraries or pages, so to navigate to a specific site, we use the global navigation, and we can display the lists and libraries on the current site we are visiting. So under the libraries category, I have a pages, a documents, a slide library for PowerPoint slides, etc. So I can select the appropriate library on the quick launch bar on the left-hand side, and I get the data contained within that library. But one thing I'm going to point out is this current navigation, or quick launch, usually displays a fairly small amount of information. That can be supplemented by using the All Site Content link. The All Site Content link can be found at the bottom of the quick launch navigation, or alternately, if you have access to the Site Actions menu, you can click on Site Actions and you'll see on the drop-down that there's a View All Site Content. So I'm going to click that link at the bottom of the quick launch here, and we'll see that on my quick launch I have 5 libraries being displayed. But in actuality, on the information technology site, there's about 10 different document libraries available. So these lists and libraries can be used to store hidden information or information that's used elsewhere in SharePoint. But I can quickly select the appropriate document library and find the information using that View All Site Content. So the next type of navigation is called metadata navigation. So a quick definition of what metadata is. Metadata can be defined as data about data. In SharePoint, we use metadata to apply filters, views, and descriptions of the types of information that we're storing in lists and libraries. And that's typically displayed using columns within the list or library. So the metadata we have for the approval form library is called approval status, and that's telling us the workflow that's actually running against those documents. Metadata can be used to create views, but SharePoint 2010 provides us an additional navigational control called metadata navigation. And I've set up a document library to show you how this works. I'm going to select the metadata navigation in the quick launch. And we'll see that my quick launch shows me the different lists and libraries specific to the information technology site. My breadcrumb navigation shows me that I'm in the metadata navigation document library, and I'm viewing all of the documents within this document library. And if I scroll down to the bottom of the screen, we'll see that we have 30 documents on the first page and another 3 documents on the second page. In the case of a very busy list or a library, it's possible to have thousands or even hundreds of thousands of items. Obviously, finding the specific piece of information that you're looking for can be challenging in a scenario where you have thousands of pieces of information. So SharePoint provides us with metadata navigation. We have multiple columns in this document library: department name, controlled document type, and target audience. Underneath the quick launch, we have metadata navigation, which shows me those column types. And I can expand those column types using metadata navigation, and I can click on one of these fields, such as unrestricted, and it immediately applies a filter to all of the information. So instead of 33 documents, I'm seeing a list of about 15 documents now showing me unrestricted information. So I can select different values to filter it. So if the information I was looking for isn't an unrestricted document, I can select the different fields. And we'll see that SharePoint instantly filters out any data that doesn't meet the filtering requirements that we've applied to the list or the library. So I'm going to navigate back to the metadata navigation to show you all of the documents again. And I'm now going to use the metadata filtering control to apply filters to the information. Metadata navigation and key filter controls work very similar to one another. We'll see that the 3 primary columns with the metadata are shown in the key filters selection. And I can select export controlled documents, sensitive information, or I can select from a specific department. So I'm looking for an information technology document. I can select information technology from the drop-down, hit apply, and any information within this list or this library is immediately filtered to show me only information that matches the filter I've applied. So that's using metadata navigation and key filters to apply custom filtering to lists or libraries within SharePoint. Keep in mind that these aren't the only navigational controls. These are the primary navigation controls available to SharePoint. There are also navigation controls that can be added by web parts and additional design elements that can provide us with navigation controls. But these are the out-of-the-box navigation controls that SharePoint provides us and how they work. Thank you very much for your time.